Good evening. Beginning tonight, I'd like to start uh, giving a series of talks on Perek Chelek, which is the last chapter of Maseches Sanhedrin, and it is the quintessential selection of Aggadta that we find throughout the entire Talmud. And before we actually start studying the Gemara inside, I just wanted to offer a few points as an introduction. I would strongly advise anybody who is interested in studying Agadata to first read the Ma'amar al-Ha'agados by the Ramchal, which the Ramchal, Rav Moshe Chaim Lutzato, offers his insights into the proper approach for studying Aggadic Gemaras. It's found in standard editions of the Ein Yaakov at the beginning of the first volume, and it was also translated into English 30 some odd years ago by Rav Aaron Feldman as an appendix to his book, The Juggler and the King. I believe there's other English translations of it available as well. There's just really one major point that I want to bring out from the Ramchal. That is that the Ramchal says that when it comes to Aggadic Gemaras, they are quite frequently written as allegories. And therefore, they are not meant whatsoever to be understood in a literal sense. He says very clearly that there are times that the sages made statements, that the sages were fully aware that the statements were factually incorrect. And the sages made them anyway, because the point was not the simple, superficial understanding of the statement, but rather it was the more hidden message within. And therefore, the pshat, the simple, superficial explanation, was not really relevant and did not cause any concern to the sages. The Ramchal does go on to say that what is necessary for a person to understand the Agadata, as he puts it, you have to have the keys to understanding. And to me, the keys to understanding Agadata incorporates having a wide vocabulary of the Talmud and of the Midrashim to understand certain words and concepts. What do they refer to in many other places? That gives us the tools to understand it in a particular location, especially in a place where a particular word or term might be used in a way that's a bit puzzling. And when I study Agadata, or when I teach a class that's dealing with a Aggadic Gemara, so I try to make great use of the various sources that we have that will give us such an approach to understand in a broader context what a particular term or word means. And by seeing it in its broader context, we then have the ability to bring it back home to the particular piece of the Gemara that we are studying and understand it to its fullest and most complete sense. So that's the first point. Again, to realize that many things in Agadata are meant allegorically and not literally, as well as the imperative to understand concepts by familiarizing oneself with the broader language and terminology of Agadta. The second point that I want to discuss is machlokes, disagreement. The Shalach HaKadosh, as well as others, say that when it comes to Aggadic statements in the Gemara, there is not really any argument. And they tell over the famous parable of the blind men who went to see an elephant. And as they came away, one said that an elephant is big and floppy. And another one said an elephant's like a garden hose. And another one said an elephant is like a tree trunk. And the reality is that every single one of them was correct. But the point was that none of them had experienced the entire elephant. And in the same way, when we find a disagreement in matters of Aggadta, oftentimes it's not really a disagreement, that whatever concept is being addressed has many different facets. And each sage who is expressing himself is providing us with another facet. And if you really want to know the truth, it's not arrived at by looking at any one of the particular sages who are commenting alone, but you really need to look at the totality of all the comments and see how they are woven together. That was my second point. Point number 3 is to jump right in with a more particular introduction to the subject matter of Perek Chelek. And Perek Chelek deals with concepts such as Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, Olam Haba, the world to come, Yemos HaMashiach, Messianic times, and Tchias HaMesim, the resurrection of the dead. And by way of introduction, I want to read to you what the Rambam says. The Rambam, after spending the better part of a chapter and a half speaking about Messianic times, he then concludes by writing as follows. V'chol elu hadvarim ukuyotze bahem. All of these things and similar things, lo yoda adam heich yiyu ad sheyiyu. Nobody knows how they will really be until they occur. Shedvarim stumim hein etzel hanaviyim. Even for the prophets, these were matters that were closed off. Gam hachachamim, the sages, ein lehem kabbalah b'dvarim elu. They do not have any tradition on these matters. Elo lefi hechra hapsukim. They just try to see what the various verses seem to point to. Ulefikach yesh la machlokas b'dvarim elu. That's why the sages disagree about these matters. Va'al kol panim ein siddur havayos dvarim elu v'lo dikdukam ikur b'das. Bottom line is, the exact order of how matters will come about and the specific details, none of them are fundamentals of our belief. Ula'olam lo yisasek adam b'divrei ha'agados. And a person should not toil in the Aggadic matters, which we are going to do. V'lo yarich b'divrei midrashos. And a person should not elaborate on the midrashic comments, ha'amurim b'inyanim elu, which are stated about these topics, ukiyotze behem, and similar things. V'lo yasimam iker, and he should not put any of those statements as primary in his thought system. She'enan mevian loli de ava v'loli de yira, because after all, they do not lead a person to either love or awe of God. So the bottom line is, after the Rambam spent a lot of time describing for us what Messianic times are going to be like, the Rambam then says, but by the way, I really don't know what I'm talking about, and nobody talks about these things really has a clue what they are talking about. I think this is very important because you will find that on the definition of Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, and at what point does a soul of one who's deceased go to the Gan Eden? That is a matter of disagreement between the Rambam, the Ramban. Exactly what will Olam Haba, the world to come, look like? Is it a purely spiritual place? Is it spiritual as well as physical? When will the resurrection of the dead occur? That's also a matter of disagreement. But I think the bottom line that the Rambam is telling us is that there is no point to getting hung up on any of these details, because the details really don't make a difference. That there are certain fundamental concepts, and that's what we will try to seek out as we learn through these concepts. That's what we're looking for. But to get bogged down in certain details, none of which anybody really knows what those details truly are, there's nothing to be gained by that. And as I said, my goal is to speak on this Perek, on this final chapter of Tractate Sanhedrin, at least 2 evenings a week for the foreseeable future, and hopefully we can explore it together and achieve some understanding of these matters.